Have you ever heard the story of the Tower of Babel? It's not just a tale of bricks and mortar. It's a story of human ambition reaching for the heavens, bold enough to capture God's attention and reckless enough to provoke his wrath. Imagine a tower that dared to defy the heavens, a monument to human ambition that stretched so high it seemed ready to brush the stars. It was more than stone and mortar. It was a dream so bold it drew humanity together, bound by a shared, electrifying vision. But what began as a testament to unity unraveled into a cataclysmic reckoning, a divine punishment that shattered the world's harmony, scattering people and their languages like leaves in a storm. What really happened on the Plains of Shinar, and why does this ancient story still speak to us today? Let's explore a moment in history that continues to challenge our understanding of power, language, and the limits of human ambition. Raven's Tales presents Tower of Babel. What happened on the Plains of Shinar? Join me as we delve into this episode where ambition soared and dreams touched the heavens, and the line between unity and chaos blurred. What began as humanity's grandest achievement soon became its greatest downfall, forever changing the world and its people. This is the story of that fateful moment, a tale of power, punishment, and the languages that were never meant to be. Please subscribe to our channel and share. Noah stood at the threshold of a transformed world, the ark creaking softly behind him as it settled into stillness. The air carried the heavy scent of wet earth and decay, a pungent reminder of what had been lost. He inhaled deeply, his gaze sweeping over the scarred landscape. Uprooted trees lay scattered like matchsticks, rocks glistened bare under the faint sunlight, and silt cloaked everything in a grim, ashen film. The sight was both humbling and daunting.
Father.
Shem's voice broke the silence, tentative yet steady.
Where do we begin?
Noah said to his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. Their faces bore the same mixture of awe and trepidation he felt. For a moment, words eluded him.
How did one begin to rebuild a world? We start where we stand, with what we have, and with faith that the one who brought us through this will guide us forward.
He finally said, his voice firm despite the enormity of the task. The family nodded, their determination setting in like the roots of a sapling seeking solid ground. Slowly, they spread out, inspecting the land, salvaging what little could be used. Days turned into weeks as they worked side by side, hunting for food, clearing debris, tilling the soil, and erecting makeshift shelters. One day, as they were clearing debris, Ham stared blankly into the air.
Do you think the world will ever be the same again?
Shem, still working, replied.
The world will not be the same, he said thoughtfully. But it can be better. If we remember.
The silence that followed was thick with the weight of that truth. And so, they carried the story of the flood, whispering its lessons to each other as they worked and to their children as they grew. It was a story of power, both divine and natural, and of humanity's fragile place within it. Years stretched into decades. Noah's descendants multiplied and spread, carving paths through the wilderness. They planted vineyards in fertile valleys, built homes near meandering rivers, and braved mountain slopes where the winds sang wild songs. Each new settlement bore the marks of struggle and triumph, as every challenge, from floods to famine to feral beasts, brought hard-won wisdom and a deeper resilience. But as humanity flourished, so too did its ambition. On the plains of Shinar far east, a spark of hubris ignited.
We can build a city and a tower in the center.
Nimrod suggested, bold with conviction.
A tower that reaches the heavens.
He added, and the idea took root, growing as swiftly as the generations had multiplied.
Think about it, he said. If we build something extraordinary, something that reaches the heavens, we'll be unstoppable.
But isn't this against what we're supposed to do? We're not meant to scatter. Together, we can claim greatness, maybe even divinity.
Another hesitated. And then it came. The reckoning. But what truly happened at Babel? What drove humanity to such daring, and what lessons linger in its downfall? These questions resonate still, an ancient echo in the modern soul. Perhaps because they speak to something universal, our unyielding ambition, our yearning to transcend, and the fragile balance between aspiration and humility. Step with me into this ancient tale. Let us unravel the secrets of Babel and find what it might teach us about our world and ourselves today. The village was a patchwork of resilience and hope. Simple shelters, woven from wood and clay, clung to the damp earth like seedlings after a storm. Smoke curled lazily from hearths, mixing with the laughter of children and the rhythmic clatter of hammers. The scars of the Great Flood were slowly fading, new signs of life and greenery sprouting everywhere, and a sense of renewal was taking root.
Pass me that beam, will you?
One man called, his voice steady despite the strain in his arms.
Careful, we've got one chance to make it stand.
Another replied, guiding the wood into place. They worked side by side, bound by a shared purpose and the memory of a world washed away. For now, life was simple. They tilled the soil, shared their harvests, and retold the story of the flood around flickering fires, a constant reminder of divine power and human fragility. But cracks began to form, small at first, like a hairline fracture in stone.
Why should they get the riverbank land?
A voice grumbled one day.
Because we hunted the forest first.
Came the sharp reply. Disputes flared over food, water, and the precious stretch of fertile ground. Whispers of ambition danced on the wind. Some sought control, eager to claim leadership and shape the future in their image. Others pulled away, retreating behind makeshift walls, determined to preserve what little they had.
We can't keep working together if they keep taking what's ours.
One woman muttered, her hands calloused from the plow.
And what happens when we're all divided? Do we forget why we're here? What we survived?
Another countered. But memories faded, worn thin by time and toil. The unity forged in the aftermath of the flood unraveled as dreams of wealth and power took root. Amid this fragile unrest, a group of dreamers emerged. They were restless souls, seekers of something more, a new beginning, a better life, or perhaps the promise of greatness itself.
Why stay? There's nothing here but old wounds.
One of them asked, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon.
And out there? What do you think we'll find?
Another gesture to the unknown, her voice tinged with both hope and caution.
Whatever it is, it has to be better than this.
The first replied. And so, they gathered what they could carry, tools, grain, and keepsakes from the world they were leaving behind. One by one, they stepped away from the safety of their hearths and into the vast uncertainty beyond.
Stay safe.
We'll find it, whatever it is.
One of the dreamers said, without turning back. Their journey began in silence, the weight of the unknown pressing down with every step. But the road ahead held more than uncertainty. It held trials that would test their resolve, hopes that would be kindled and dashed, and choices that would ripple through generations. Why did they leave? What drove them to abandon comfort for the untamed frontier? Was it ambition? Necessity? Or something deeper, the restless ache to create, to rise, to endure? This is their story. A tale of ambition and conflict. Of dreams that stretched beyond the horizon. It is a story as old as humanity itself, and it begins here, with those who dared to build something that might just last. The whispers of a promised land began as rumors, weaving their way through the journey and in the fields. A vast plain to the east, fertile and open, promised new beginnings and untold possibilities. Nimrod, guiding the long troop of human and their camels, said, his voice strong and unyielding,
We've grown too large for that place. Our future lies beyond the horizon. A land of endless opportunity awaits us. Together, we will find it, and we will make it our own.
He declared one day as they journeyed, the glow of the sun catching in his eyes. The crowd murmured in agreement, their doubts softened by his confidence. And so, with heavy hearts but eager spirits, they left behind the familiar, their steps filled with hope for what lay ahead. The journey tested them in ways they had not anticipated. Days bled into weeks, and weeks into months, each mile demanding more than the last.
I am thirsty?
A man groaned, staring at the dry, large expanse of the desert land.
We'll cross this hurdle as we've crossed all the others. The hardest paths lead to the greatest rewards.
Nimrod replied, his tone firm yet reassuring. His words, steady as the current, renewed their resolve. When the desert winds burned their faces or the mountains loomed treacherously, he was there, pointing them forward. Finally, after countless trials, the landscape began to change. The rugged hills softened, spreading into a plain so vast it seemed to swallow the horizon. They stopped, their breath catching at the sight.
This is it,
Nimrod proclaimed, raising his arms to the open expanse before them. Two mighty rivers snaked through the plain, their waters shimmering in the dying light. Our promised land.
Shinar.
The air buzzed with excitement as they made camp for the night. Families' rejoicings and their laughter rising to meet the stars.
We found it.
Someone whispered.
No, we've begun. Here, we will build not just a city, but an empire, one that will rival the gods themselves.
Nimrod corrected, his voice carrying above the murmurs. The following days were a blur of activity. The makeshift camp transformed as tents gave way to mud brick homes. Fields were marked along the riverbanks, and seeds disappeared into the fertile earth. Prosperity seemed inevitable, and as news of their settlement spread, others arrived, drawn by the promise of a new civilization. At first, some feared the growing diversity might bring discord. But something extraordinary unfolded. A single language bound them together, uniting the settlers in a way no one had expected.
How is it that we all speak the same words, though we come from such distant places?
One woman marveled.
Perhaps it's a blessing, or simply the way things were meant to be.
Her companion replied, whatever the cause, this unity became their greatest strength. With no barriers of speech, ideas flowed effortlessly. Builders shared designs with farmers, and artisans taught their crafts to eager learners. Children played together, their laughter a seamless melody of cooperation, while elders told stories of their homelands in a tongue everyone could understand. One morning, Nimrod stood atop a small rise, watching the bustle below. Everywhere, people worked side by side, their voices blending into a harmonious hum. His lips curved into a smile.
With one language, there are no limits. We can achieve anything.
He murmured. And so, the seeds of an audacious plan began to take root, one that would not merely shape the plain of Shinar, but echo through history. The sun climbed higher, gilding the fertile plain, as humanity's grandest endeavor began to unfold. The idea emerged like a spark in dry tinder, catching fire before anyone could resist its pull. One morning, Nimrod in a gathering with the people spoke, his voice, resonant and commanding, cut through the hum of the crowd below.
My brothers and sisters, we have been given a gift, a common language, a shared voice. But what if we use this gift to accomplish something truly extraordinary?
He began, his arms outstretched.
I propose that we build not just a city, but the city, the greatest the world has ever seen, and at its heart, a tower so high it will pierce the heavens.
Nimrod continued, his voice rising with passion. A wave of astonishment rippled through the crowd. Some gasped, others whispered, their skepticism soon giving way to the infectious energy of Nimrod's vision. He painted the city with words, wide, bustling streets, markets overflowing with goods, temples dedicated to their unity, and above it all, the great tower, a beacon of their collective power and ambition. An old man, his white beard glinting in the pale light, moved to the center. His voice, though weathered, carried clearly.
And what of the cost, Nimrod? How much work? How many years? Can we truly afford this dream?
Nimrod nodded, as if expecting the question.
Yes, it will demand much from us. It will take time, strength, and sacrifice. But think of what we'll leave behind. Our names carved into eternity. A legacy so great, no one will forget us.
The murmurs shifted, doubt began to melt into determination. The promise of immortality through creation, the allure of achieving the impossible, was too powerful to ignore. One by one, the skeptics fell silent.
We will build it,
someone shouted, and the cheer spread like wildfire. From that moment, the Plain of Shinar transformed. The once quiet expanse became a symphony of industry. Men and women labored side by side, guided by meticulously drawn plans. Kilns glowed red-hot as bricks baked in the sun. Materials flowed smoothly to the site, their shared language ensuring seamless coordination. In the evenings, around communal fires, the city's future took shape in their stories. Children played in the shadows of rising walls, their laughter mingling with the rhythmic beat of hammers. Elders nodded with pride, watching their descendants lay the foundations of a dream. The construction did not escape notice. Beyond the horizon, whispers spread among neighboring kingdoms, speaking of the towering structure rising toward the heavens. From an even more distant vantage point, a silent and enigmatic observer, radiating an aura of immense power, descended to scrutinize the city and its ambitious creation. As the days stretched into months, the skeleton of the tower loomed ever higher, casting its shadow across the plain. From atop its highest level, Nimrod gazed out at the sprawling construction site below. His heart swelled with pride and an unrelenting hunger for more.
Every brick brings us closer to the heavens.
He called down, his voice sharp and resolute. His words echoed across the plain, striking the workers like a drumbeat. They were motivated, redoubling their efforts, their resolve unshaken. Yet, as the tower reached for the clouds, so too did their ambition ascend. Unseen by those who toiled below, the balance between aspiration and hubris began to teeter. But for now, the vision of the tower united them, its rising form a testament to what they believed was their boundless potential. As the tower rose toward the heavens, it became more than stone and mortar, it became legend. Some whispered that its summit could touch the stars, others claimed it was a stairway to the realm of the gods. To Nimrod, however, it was something else entirely.
It's proof that nothing is beyond our reach,
he said one evening as the sun bathed the tower in golden light. He stood in the bustling market square close to Ezra, a master mason with calloused hands and a mind that often wandered to the myths surrounding their creation. Ezra squinted at the tower, now casting a shadow over the plains.
Do you think we'll ever reach the top?
Ezra asked, his voice tinged with awe.
Reach what?
Nimrod replied, a knowing smile tugging at his lips. Ezra hesitated.
The stars, or maybe the gods. People are saying all sorts of things these days.
Nimrod chuckled softly, his gaze fixed on the structure dominating the horizon.
Let them talk. To some, it's a bridge to the heavens. To others, a challenge to the gods themselves. But to me, it's proof of what we can achieve. Together, we've taken an idea and made it real,
he said, turning to place a hand on Ezra's shoulder. Ezra nodded slowly.
Every stone we've laid, every hand that's worked on it, it's as if the whole world is building this with us.
Exactly, this tower isn't just about its height or its legends. It's about us, our unity, our determination. It's a testament to the fact that when we stand together, nothing can stop us.
Nimrod said, his voice steady, almost reverent. They fell silent, the distant hum of traders in the market filling the space between them. The tower loomed above, a shared dream inching ever closer to the clouds. Each milestone in the tower's construction was met with celebration. Feasts stretched for days, music filled the air, and stories of their achievements spread far and wide. Yet amid the festivities, a quieter voice emerged.
During one such gathering, Eleazar, an elder known for his wisdom, leaned forward and spoke. "Tell me,"
he said, his tone thoughtful and slow.
"Is it noble to want to be remembered? And if so, shouldn't we ask ourselves how we'll be remembered? What kind of legacy are we truly leaving behind?"
His words settled over the group like a shadow, momentarily stilling the laughter and conversation. Ezra looked down, fiddling with his cup. Others exchanged uneasy glances, as if a question they dared not ask aloud had been laid bare. But the moment passed. Someone raised a toast, and the energy of the gathering reignited.
To the tower, a voice bellowed. To greatness.
The room roared in agreement, their doubts drowned in the intoxicating allure of ambition. As the tower climbed higher, it became a chorus of effort and resolve. Workers sang as they toiled, their voices rising in a triumphant harmony that carried across the plains.
May the gods see us. Let the world know what we can achieve.
They chanted. Their ambition burned like a flame, fueled by their yearning for immortality and a belief that their work would stand for all eternity. Yet, high above, unseen by those who labored with such fervor, the Almighty watched. The tower, a defiant monument to human ambition, stretched ever closer to the heavens. But with each brick, with each proclamation of greatness, it also drew closer to something the builders could not see, a moment of reckoning. The tower loomed higher with each passing day, a defiant spire clawing at the heavens. Its shadow stretched across the plains of Shinar, a testament to human ambition and ingenuity. The clang of tools and the rhythmic thump of bricks being laid filled the air, blending into a symphony of effort and determination. Workers toiled with purpose, unaware that their grand endeavor had drawn the attention of a being far greater than themselves. Nimrod, as always, moved through the construction site to the top with an air of authority. His presence was magnetic, his confidence unwavering. At one edge of the bustling site, Ezra stood overseeing a group of laborers.
"We're making rapid progress, sir. With these bricks and bitumen, there's no limit to how high we can go,"
Ezra announced, his tone brimmed with pride, though a flicker of hesitation lingered in his eyes. Nimrod nodded, a satisfied smile playing on his lips.
Good. Let them see it rise. Let the world remember what we've accomplished here.
But not all shared his confidence. Among the workers, whispers circulated about dwindling resources. The clay deposits were growing sparse, and the bitumen pits were nearly dry. The laborers dug deeper and traveled farther, their efforts growing more desperate with each passing week. One day, at the construction site, two masons discussing, their voices low.
If the clay runs out, what then? We can't keep building if there's nothing to build with.
One murmured.
Keep your voice down. You don't want Nimrod to hear that.
The other cautioned, glancing around nervously. Their doubts were shared by many, but fear kept their concerns from reaching the ears of the ambitious leader. And so, brick by brick, the tower climbed higher, a monument not only to unity but also to hubris. Far above, beyond the reach of mortal sight, an omniscient gaze rested upon the plains of Shinar. In the vastness of the heavenly realms, a voice resonated with quiet authority, carrying both concern and love.
If they are not stopped, nothing they plan will be impossible for them.
God said, his voice heavy with thought. It was not a declaration of anger, but a reflection born of deep understanding. Humanity, his most intricate creation, was endowed with free will, a gift that allowed them to choose their path, but also to stumble. He had seen this before, in Eden, where desire for knowledge led to separation, and the flood, where corruption had nearly consumed the earth. The tower was different. It was a symbol not of seeking him, but of glorifying themselves. It reached toward the heavens, not in worship, but in defiance. God's gaze softened as he pondered his next move. Thunder or flood would not serve here. This was not a matter of destruction, but of redirection, a subtle intervention to preserve what was best in them while tempering their pride.
Let us go down and confuse their language, let them be scattered across the earth.
He decided, his voice resolute but compassionate. And so, as the workers of Shinar dreamed of the stars and toiled with tireless fervor, a plan was set in motion, one that would change the course of humanity forever. The first rays of dawn gilded the tip of the Tower of Babel, turning it into a beacon of golden light. But what should have been a moment of triumph felt strangely heavy. The chief builder stood at the base, surveying the day's work. As he gave his usual instructions, he noticed something odd. Confusion flickered across the workers' faces.
Bring the large stones to the east side, gesturing sharply.
He barked. A foreman hesitated, his brow furrowing.
The east side? I don't understand.
What do you mean you don't understand? The east side, over there.
The chief snapped, his frustration mounting. But the foreman only stared at him, bewildered.
What is this nonsense?
The chief muttered under his breath. By mid-morning, it became clear, the words that had united them the day before now divided them. Across the sprawling city, the markets became scenes of chaos. A merchant thrust a clay jar into the hands of a buyer, shouting a price that sounded like gibberish.
I can't understand you.
The buyer shouted back, throwing his hands up in exasperation. Panic spread like wildfire. Neighbors who had once shared meals now argued over trivial misunderstandings. Families fractured, their bonds undone by a sudden, inexplicable barrier. Meanwhile, high up on the tower, the challenges of the lofty heights compounded the confusion below. Workers struggled to breathe in the thin air, their balance threatened by relentless winds. Materials slipped from trembling hands and fell, shattering on the ground far below.
Hold the beam steady.
A mason shouted, his words lost in the gusts.
I am.
Down below, murmurs of doubt spread through the weary laborers.
Perhaps we've gone too far.
One whispered, clutching a brick to his chest.
Too far? We've defied the gods themselves. What else could this be but punishment?
Another scoffed, though his voice trembled. When the unrest reached its peak, Nimrod stormed to the city center. Climbing onto a wooden platform, he said,
Listen to me, this is nothing but a test of our resolve. We will overcome it, as we've overcome every challenge before.
He bellowed, his voice cutting through the cacophony. But his words, once a rallying cry, now fell into a sea of confusion.
What is he saying?
Someone whispered.
I don't know, it's just noise.
Another replied. Nimrod's face twisted in frustration as the crowd grew restless. He shouted louder, but it was no use. He looked out over his people, his once united people, and saw only fractured groups, each speaking a language no one else could understand. Behind him was the tower, still standing tall, but now ominous in its solitude. It loomed as a cruel reminder of a dream that had slipped through his grasp. Where once it had inspired awe, it now mocked him, its shadow stretching across a city spiraling into chaos. As the sun set, casting long shadows over Shinar, the tower stood deserted, the weight of Nimrod's ambition pressing heavily on his shoulders. What had begun as a vision of unity had unraveled into a stark lesson. No tower, no matter how tall, could reach the heavens if the foundation was cracked. As twilight draped its veil over the ambitious city of Babel, the dream of a tower touching the heavens faltered under the weight of stone, and most importantly the collapse of unity. The sun sank low, stretching shadows across the crumbling structure, casting a somber silhouette over the once thriving city. Where there had been purpose and camaraderie, there was now silence punctuated by confusion. Nimrod stood at the base of the tower, watching the disarray unfold. Groups of workers huddled together, speaking in unfamiliar tongues. He approached one cluster, his tone resolute.
Why aren't you laying the bricks?
He demanded. A man stepped forward, gesturing in frustration, his words indecipherable to Nimrod.
What is this nonsense? Speak properly.
Nimrod's voice rose, his hands clenched into fists. But the group only exchanged helpless glances, their attempts to respond a cacophony of sounds that carried no meaning to him. Frustrated, Nimrod turned to another group, only to be met with the same baffling barrier.
What's happening to us?
Ezra whispered, approaching Nimrod.
The language. It's fractured.
Nimrod muttered, his voice heavy with disbelief. Ezra shook his head, his eyes wide with realization.
It's not just the workers. At the market today, no one could bargain. Families, even families, can't understand each other anymore.
He hesitated. Nimrod's gaze turned to the horizon, where small caravans were beginning to form.
They're leaving, he said quietly, more to himself than Ezra.
Weeks turned into months, and the city that had once pulsed with life grew hollow. People naturally gravitated toward those they could understand, forming insular groups. Nimrod ascended the unfinished tower daily, standing amidst the winds, staring down at the fractured city below. Far above, God observed the scattered remnants of Babel with a gaze of infinite understanding. The Almighty's voice resonated in the heavens, soft and reflective.
They sought greatness in height, but true greatness lies in depth, depth of connection, depth of understanding.
As he watched families and tribes move away from the shadow of the tower, he saw not ruin but possibility. Each departing group carried a fragment of Babel's ambition and a seed of their own culture, destined to grow in diverse soils. The exodus was not chaotic, but purposeful. Nimrod stood at the tower's edge, watching as the caravans moved beyond the plains. He said bitterly to Ezra,
"They'll forget us."
Ezra, standing beside him, replied softly,
"Maybe they'll remember something better."
Far from Babel, in the flickering light of campfires, elders gathered children around them. Once, there was a tower, one began, his voice rich with the cadence of his language. The children leaned in, captivated by the tale of ambition, unity, and its eventual unraveling. The story was told differently in each camp, shaped by the nuances of each tongue, the lessons tailored to the perspectives of the people.
"And what happened to the tower?"
A child asked. The elder smiled, his voice tinged with hope.
"It still stands, but not as it was meant to."
It reminds us of where we came from, and why we must value the gifts we carry now. In those stories, the fragmented legacy of Babel became the foundation for a vibrant future. Each departing group carried a piece of the past, but it was their shared humanity that would weave the threads of the story into something far greater than a single tower. In newly established nomadic camps and budding cities, elders gathered eager young listeners around them, recounting the story in vivid detail. Each retelling bore the unique imprint of the storyteller's language, shaping the tale with the nuances and rhythms of their words. The once shared narrative of Babel splintered, evolving into distinct versions, each reflecting the culture and perspective of its people. As the children listened, wide-eyed, the story became more than a memory. It was a lesson, a legacy, and a reminder of the diversity that now defined their world. Through these tales, the fragmented past wove its way into their future. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments section. Subscribe to Heaven's Tale channel on YouTube and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next exploration of the scriptures. Together, let's share the gospel of Christ and build a global community of believers. Thank you for your support, and may God bless you. For an inspirational story on the events that preceded the Tower of Babel, watch Noah's Ark, a voyage of faith and survival in a world reborn. On Heaven's Tales channel.